Well, the Edmonton Oilers are down 2-1 in the Western Conference Finals to the Dallas Stars. Here's why you shouldn't panic, or maybe why you should.
You are Locked On Oilers, your daily podcast on the Edmonton Oilers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Tuesday edition of Locked On Oilers. I am your host, Nick Zararis. That was tough. That was really tough, and we're going to get to the Game 3 loss. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. All right, very straightforward. Today's episode is going to largely be talking about Game 2, talking about Game 3, talking about the series at large, and then you're going to get the best spin zone I got as to why you shouldn't write the Oilers off just yet. So let's get into it. Oilers come out, great start. Yes, Dallas does them a massive favor when Seguin bats that puck in off of McDavid, and McDavid gets the unassisted goal credited to him for something he didn't do. At 2-0 going into the second period, you feel great. 2-0 in a series where you haven't exactly lit the lamp up crazy. That's a good start. And it's always going to be harder for the Oilers to fare well in a high-scoring game. And stay with me. I know the Oilers do well typically in high-scoring, chaotic games. But against a team like Dallas that is really strong defensively and has just a better goalie than what the Oilers have, I think you got to bake that into your consideration of what style of game. You know, the Oilers did really well in that series against the Canucks when those games were low scoring, when they were tight, when there wasn't a lot of room, and the Oilers star players were able to have a bigger influence on the game because the game just came down to a handful of plays. I did not think the Oilers were terrible tonight. I really didn't. I know the final score doesn't look as good. I know that being up 2-0 after one and then losing the game 5-3, it's really unsatisfying. I know that I won't say there is a building fervor for the Oilers stars to get going here, meaning Draisaitl. I know McDavid had a goal, but Seguin gave him a goal. A little bit on Hyman, he had a goal as well, but the Oilers stars need to start finding ways. And today, Hintz's first game back in the lineup for Dallas. You heard Joey highlight him on the crossover episode last week. Hintz might be the single most underrated player in the entire NHL. His ability in transition, his ability as a forechecker, his ability as a playmaker. He's a really multi-dimensional piece that the Oilers don't have. Frankly, there just aren't a lot of guys who have that type of skill set in the entire league. I have been very bullish on Hintz for a long time now, and he's had a checkered injury history. It's taken him a little while to solidify himself as a top sixer in the NHL because of that injury history. It's hard for coaches to trust him. But he had a lot of energy tonight. Part of the reason Jason Robertson, who I know he hadn't done a whole lot, especially in these playoffs. I wrote it down. I want to get it right. Jason Robertson had not scored a goal since Game 5 of the first round against the Vegas Golden Knights. It'd been a while. When you get a little bit of juice, you get a little bit of a feeling, and it happens. I know a lot of Oilers fans are going to say, well, where are our stars? When are we going to make something happen? I understand looking at it from an Oilers perspective. Of course, this is Locked On Oilers, where we've got your team covered every day. But you got to remember that a series and individual games are two entities going at it with each other. It's not just what are you doing, it's what the other guys are doing and how those two styles or choices or decisions, how all of that intersects with each other. That's what ultimately determines these games, is how those stylistic things, how those decisions all interact, how they connect. And that is where we can lose some of the nuance within these conversations, where it gets reduced to this player has not scored a goal. They are not playing well. Well, let's see. Why aren't they playing well? Is the other team sending out a certain defensive pair? Are they not getting shots from where they like to typically shoot? What's not working for them? And that's your starting point for evaluation. But Oilers got off to a really good start. They won the scoring chance battle. They won the expected goals battle. They won the high danger battle. I clicked over to my notes here. 8-3 shots for and against, 5-2 high danger chances for, 2 chances against, 0.8 expected goals to 0.3 expected goals. Really good home first period. You got the crowd into it. Dallas very clearly kind of easing into the game. And that's the key to playing a good road playoff game. You just got to keep it close enough that it's not out of reach. And I know this is playoff hockey. No lead is insurmountable. You go back and look through recent NHL history. There are plenty of 2 and 3 and 4 goal comebacks. But as a road team, if you can keep it relatively close, you have a chance. And then this is the trap some teams run into. And this is not just a hockey thing. This is a life thing. You will not work as hard as you do when you are desperate if you are comfortable. It is a simple matter of fact. I know we can say they're professional athletes. They have a higher standard of competitiveness. They do. They absolutely do. But decision-making becomes a little bit more conservative. We're going to stop trying to create offense as much because we don't want to risk conceding anything defensively. The marriage of those decisions are how you get what happens tonight. Yes, the Stars had a little more jump coming out in the second period, and their star player stepped up. It's going to happen. This time of year, the other guys punch back. This is not a Wednesday in Chicago in December. The other guys are just as good, if not better than you. So they're going to have opportunities to punch back. And this was the first time in this series the Oilers have not found a way to respond to a change. Game 1, you win in double OT, tremendous. You stole one on the road. You negated the home ice. Game 2, not a lot of room. A real tight game, rock fight of a game. It came down to 1 goal. Tonight, I know the final score is 5-3. Tonight only came down to 1 goal too. And it took Jason Robertson going kind of crazy for Edmonton to lose this game. So that's your positive spin zone there for that. One last thought on the game before we open it up a little bit more, take a bigger picture. The Oilers defense needs to be better. It's really that straightforward. There is no excusing the kind of mistakes you saw that lead to goals. Guys who are consistently making the same mistake over and over again. And I want to give credit here for someone who did the research for me. Zach of Oilers Nation, ZJ Lang on Twitter, tweeted this. I want to give credit where it's due. In the 8:52 of 5-on-5 time and ice in this game, the Darnell Nurse-Cody Ceci pair was outchanced 13-8. They were on the ice for 1 goal against. They were not on the ice for a goal for. 0.11 to 0.86 in expected goals, and then 1-8 in scoring chances. That's not going to cut it this time of year. And I get it. Dallas is a really good team. Okay, if Dallas is a really good team, we're going to need to modify how we break out of our own zone. It is really that simple. It frustrates me a lot when coaches refuse to have their forwards come back a little bit early. I know the Oilers do that. The Oilers like an organized regroup where a forward comes back, they regather, and then they get a head of steam to break out because they can get the puck in the hands of their more dynamic guys. That stuff is great. But in this series, Dallas is a really good forecheck. You heard me talk about this on the preview with Joey. The Stars don't mind if it's ugly. The Oilers are not particularly well suited for a dump it out, grind it style of game. The Oilers have found success defensively by playing as little defense as possible, by blocking shots, and being physical situationally. Tonight, you saw what happens when they stopped trying to create offense and they didn't push far enough. It's really that straightforward. The Oilers at 2-0 needed to keep pushing to extend that lead. No lead is safe this time of year, especially if you give the other team an opportunity to get back in the game. And they're human. Mistakes happen. I like to think the Oilers are going to learn from this. This happened in the Vancouver series as well, where they got out to a lead, blew the game ultimately. I didn't feel like the Oilers played terribly, but this time of year, even a good game probably isn't enough most nights because the team you're playing in a conference final, unless it's like Montreal in the Fugazi 56 game season, is great. Greatness is the bar this time of year. Coming up next on Locked On Oilers, we are going to take a more macro look at the series at large and game out some ideas for the Oilers to level this series up and come back to win it. Coming up next on Locked On Oilers. It's busy season in the sports world, friends. We got conference finals in the NBA, in the NHL, Major League Baseball, full swing, WNBA, full swing, NASCAR, Formula One, IndyCar. All of the events you could possibly think of are going on. You can get in on the action over with our friends at Gametime, where you can get tickets to any event you want. I am going to see the New York Mets play Shohei Ohtani and the Dodgers today, Tuesday. I got my tickets over at Gametime, where some of the most useful features you could possibly imagine. Zone deals where you can choose a section and let Gametime choose the seats, all in pricing that shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. My personal favorite, the seat view, where you get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. The lowest price guarantee, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for tuning in to today's edition of Locked On Oilers. No matter first thing in the morning on the way to school, work, or the gym, on your way home, middle of the day, whatever time you're consuming the show, thank you for taking the time. This is fun time of year, man. I know the Oilers lost, and I know moral victories are for Little League, where nobody's professionals, and 0.0000001% of all Little Leaguers make it to Major League Baseball. I know. This time of year, it's hard. The games are not easy. The bar is great. Like I just said at the end of the first segment, if you want to go all the way, it's going to take moments of individual greatness. And the Oilers weren't great tonight. They were fine, teetering on good, but it really felt once Robertson got one, it was kind of like when Rocky realized Drago could bleed. And I know that's a dated reference. There are probably people listening to this who haven't seen Rocky 4, but when you get that glimmer of, oh, we can do this, you get a little bit of that irrational confidence, and then you start doing silly things. Like the perfect example is the Robertson goal, the jam play at the net. That is a relatively new phenomenon in the NHL, the jam play tight like that, because something in the goalie technique has changed where these guys just aren't as snug on their posts, and it's allowing guys on the other teams to bank off of their back. I mean, almost as long as I lived, I shouldn't say that. For most of my life as a hockey fan, I'm 27 years old. I've been watching pretty consistently since I was like 10, maybe 9, somewhere in there. That goal is a relatively new thing. I think the defensemen shy away from clearing the net front a little bit too much. And I'm guilty of this in terms of my approach to roster building. I don't really want big and lumbering defensemen. That's the trade-off I'm willing to make because I would prefer to have guys who can help create offense. But you would like your defenseman to have some level of physical ability to knock guys off of the puck. You know, we lose sight of that whenever we're having discussions about, is that a dirty hit? Is that a dangerous hit? Should that guy be fined? Should that guy be suspended? The principal point of throwing a hit is to try and win the puck back. You need your defensemen to be able to tie up sticks, to clear out that net front area, because that's the secret sauce. You get to that 10, 15-foot space around the net front and whack at the puck enough, something weird can happen. It's never a bad play to go to the net. As long as, if you take anything away from my time doing this show, there is never a bad time to take the puck to the net. If you are shorthanded and you got one defender in front of you who's killing this penalty, make them play defense. I know you probably are being told, dump it in, kill off the clock. Make the defender play defense. Only bad things can happen for a defender if you make them play defense. It's one of my favorite things to say. Good things happen when you go to the net. And the Robertson goal, and I don't want to bang on Skinner too much tonight because he made some really good saves in a tight game there. When it was 3-2 and the Oilers were trying to find that third goal, which they eventually got from Adam Henry, Skinner made some really important saves to keep that game at 3-2 and give them a chance to get back in it. And the reason I'm not going to harp too much on Skinner or the performance at large, 3-3 and a superstar on the other team made some plays. Now, as we transition to talking about the third segment about why you should feel okay and think they might be able to pull off coming back from 2-1 down, the Oilers are going to need their guys to start making plays at some point. What that looks like, how many, which guy, we'll talk about that more coming up, but you want to think about it from the perspective of what didn't work and at what point in the game. The series has been very close so far. I know, game 1, double overtime, game 2, 1-goal game, and tonight before the empty net goal, 1-goal game. It happens. Hockey is weird, okay? Hockey is a very weird sport. And for the record, yes, I know game 2 was an empty net goal as well, but in your head, you're thinking about it, 2-1 game, 1-goal game. The Oilers need to score more. They need to score more. Dallas can score 3-4 goals a game. And I know I said in the opener that the Oilers want to keep this low scoring so that their superstars can make crazy plays and their superstars can help them win this game, because their superstars overall are better than Dallas's best guys. And I know Jason Robertson just had a hat trick tonight. He scored 40 goals in a season. Hintz came back into the lineup, looked like he had a rocket up his butt. He was flying out there. He was throwing hits. He was carrying the puck. He was winning loose pucks. I know you're coming off of a disappointing game, relatively speaking, for the Oilers superstars. But that's the Oilers' path here. And we're going to talk more about that coming up next. Thank you to everybody making it to the third segment of today's show. All right. You want the spin zone? You want to know how the Oilers do this? All right. Let's lay it out. We've played 3 games in this series. There is a maximum of a game 4, a game 5, a game 6, a game 7. 4 total possible games remaining. The Oilers have already won 3. The Oilers have already won 1 game, so they need to win 3 more. Winning 3 out of 4 from Dallas is not going to be easy. How do we get there? You already got 1 win in overtime. Overtime would probably help the Oilers. And I know what you're going to say. That's extremely volatile. 1 possession changes the entire thing because it's sudden death. And I agree. But when you are trying to make up a disparity in depth, when you're trying to make up maybe a lack of scoring chances, a lack of quality scoring chances, you need to increase the variance of given plays. You need more things to go your way. When offense dries up, the conventional wisdom is point shots. That way you have the opportunity for deflections, rebounds, second chance scoring opportunities, because you're increasing the variables within a given play. You can get another game to overtime. You get your stars out there. You load up with your stars. You get McDavid playing with Leon. You throw him with Hyman. You throw all 3. And I know those guys have not had great defensive results when they've played together in these playoffs. And that's the trick in today's league, is If you just make those guys play defense, you cycle, you dump and chase, you force them to play defense, that's where they get in trouble. They were on the ice for a goal against tonight. I want to say the Oilers have enough talent. I do genuinely think the Oilers are talented enough to beat Dallas. They're not more talented than Dallas, but they have enough. This isn't a glaring disparity in talent. The only glaring disparity is in net, and Skinner's been fine. You know, you lose a 5-3 game on an empty netter, the final score should be 4-3. And I know people are going to look at the stats, say Skinner 8-10. He only faced 21 shots and he gave up 17. You're not wrong, but he made some really good saves in those 17 saves he did make. So you got to give him a little bit of a benefit of the doubt. And this is the three prongs. We talked about this with Joey on the preview, and I'll reiterate it here. We break down hockey in 3 phases: goaltending, 5-on-5, special teams. Tonight, Oilers penalty kill, 1-for-1, did their job. Power play, 0-for-2. Oilers get a power play goal in this game. They may win this game outright. And I know we talked about this on the show on Monday. The officials are getting on my nerves too, because they are not being consistent with what is and isn't a penalty. I didn't think that was embellishment. I always err on the side of the guy getting cracked by the professional athlete. I was at dinner Monday night. I was at dinner before the Oilers game, and somebody had brought up to me, well, how come Evan Rodriguez was laying on the ground like he was a dead body after Trouba elbowed him in what looked like the neck or the jaw, or maybe the shoulder? And my counterpoint was, he just got punched in the jaw. He got forearmed in the jaw by a professional athlete. That probably hurt. I don't know if I'm in a position as a normal civilian to critique another person's reaction to getting hit by a professional athlete. So whether or not you think that was embellishment, I could go either way. I don't know. I don't know if there is a way to know. I do wish embellishment was called more often, because I think it would discourage further embellishments from other players, but that's neither here nor there. Power play needs to get going. It's that simple. The Oilers power play needs to get going. And that's where you can really point to their stars. That's where the Oilers need the stars to dictate this game. Their stars, I should say, not the stars, because, you know, the Oilers are playing the stars, but the Oilers need their stars to dictate the game when it's 5-on-4. And they had some good chances there. They had good chances in the 6-on-5 situation with the net empty. They didn't convert any of them. They went 0-for-2 on the power play. At some point, the Oilers need to get going. The Stars are going to have their best chance. The Oilers Stars, I keep doing that. I got to remind myself. The Oilers Stars have to dictate the game at 5-on-4 or 6-on-4 or anytime you're on the power play, because that is the best opportunity your star players have to exercise that outsized influence on the game. Remember, we were talking about low event game. That means your superstars can do more because each play is worth more because there's fewer of them. Simple supply and demand. The less of something there is, the more valuable it is. That's what we're talking about here, man. In a game where there's not a lot going on, that's where Connor, Leon, Hyman, Bush got to get going, guys. And you want to be fair. You know these are superstars. They are playing a really good defensive team with a really good goalie. But being that they blew a multi-goal lead in this game, you want to take a step back and say, okay, how can we create more offense without conceding that much more defensively? I am always willing conceptually to trade off some defense for offense. The offense will always be more valuable than defense because you can't win a game 0-0. It's why if the conversation is ever, would you like the best goalie in the world or the best skater in the world? The conversation is always the answer is always skater. Always, 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 always. I know people will say, well, Vasilevsky's an outlier. He's playing on a team with 5 other Hall of Famers, future Hall of Famers, I should say. Most of the elite goalies, like even Ottinger, I would say even Shesterkin, I think those teams would rather have Connor McDavid than either of those guys. And that might be my Oilers bias showing, but McDavid's ability to influence a game is second to none. McKinnon's going to win the Hart. Austin Matthews had 70 goals. I know. McDavid is the most impactful player in this league, and the Oilers need to find a way to get him going a little bit more. It's not that he's playing poorly. It's that the Oilers need him to be the guy. Bouchard has done an admirable job. Draisaitl has done an admirable job. McDavid, only 4 goals in the playoffs so far. He's right there in the point totals. They need him to figure it out, especially on the power play. That's supposed to be their equalizer. They know they don't have great goaltending, and they know they're going to struggle to score depth-wise 5-on-5, and they got one tonight. They got a goal from Adam Henrique, who was good to see him back in the lineup. McLeod out for him. I don't know if that's who I would have yanked in McLeod, especially because you could use the extra penalty killer, but and I said this about the Rangers, and I'll repeat it here. I don't think who the eighth forward is matters all that much. I think if the Oilers are going to win this series, and I've yet to lay that out, so I should get to that, being that we only have a few minutes left in today's show. Hang on. The Oilers' path back in this series is very straightforward. You get Skinner playing about 900 save, and you get the power play humming. They're right there. The gap at 5-on-5 is there, but it is not so unbelievably insurmountable that it feels inevitable. Yeah, the Stars have the puck a little bit more. The Oilers, when they have it, they're not getting particularly dangerous chances. They're getting a lot of one and dones where they gain the zone and they don't really do anything. They get one scoring chance, and then Dallas goes back the other way, especially late in that game, third period, where it was really back and forth, up and down, ping pong style, because the Oilers would gain the zone, one shot, Dallas back the other way. Dallas gain the zone, speed, shot, go back the other way. I don't think Edmonton's going to fare well in that type of environment against Dallas, because Dallas's defenders are going to make better individual plays than Edmonton's, and Ottinger is better than Skinner. I think the Oilers' game plan tonight, especially in the first period, I think it was well attuned with how the game needs to go if Edmonton wants to win. They need their star players to have massive impacts when they are out there, because they're the guys who drive the boat, who make the lineup go. And without them going, Edmonton just does not have enough guys to do it. And the trade-off for superstars is less depth. Every team would love to have 12 elite forwards, 6 elite defensemen. You can't do that. It's a salary cap sport. Okay. So if we've got 2 of the 5-10 highest paid players in the league, how do we make the rest of our roster work for that? Okay, we're probably going to pick guys who are a little bit more defense first for our bottom 6. We're going to pick defensemen who are a little bit more defense first, because we want to protect the game best we can when our best players aren't out there. It's very clear that's how the Oilers are constructed. And the Oilers' bottom 6, it's not that they play poorly. They get offensive zone time. They cycle. They put pressure. I like Connor Brown's game again tonight. I thought he was moving pretty well out there. I thought Janmark was moving pretty well out there, making some things happen on the forecheck. The Oilers absolutely can do this. I know the stat, it's something like 80% of teams that win the swing game 3 that are tied at 1-1 go on to win the series. Still 17% that don't. The Oilers have more than enough talent. They just need their high-end talent to start playing like it. And I don't want to, that's not a shot. That's not a shot. I understand the points these guys have put up. They are playing good hockey. There is not a lot of room out there right now. And without the power play going, the Oilers are not going to be able to score enough to beat Dallas. Get the power play going, survive at 5-on-5, and don't make Skinner have to make 1,000,000 saves. He can make some. He can make 20. Anything more than that, I think you're going to start pushing it. But that will just about do it for today's edition of Locked On Oilers. Make sure you are subscribed wherever you get your podcast. Leave the show a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you're watching over on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the alarm bell, get a notification whenever new content goes live. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Until then, let's go Oilers.